And we're talking about the powers of binomials. And I'm going to try to explain why we want to do this. Okay, so I'm going to do something off to the side. And again, the idea is that after this, you'll understand why this is even something. So, right, this is a binomial. And then this is the power of that binomial. And so what would be the simplified or the expanded version of this?
A plus B.
Not 0. And not A plus B. So anything to the 0 power is not 0. 1. Anything to the 0 power is 1. So this one's 1. What if I gave you this binomial and this power? It would be A plus B. What would you do if I gave you this binomial and this power?
A squared plus B squared.
Well, don't tell me the answer. What would we have to do? Write it out twice. Okay, and then we FOIL it. So then what would it FOIL into? A squared plus AB,
Plus BA,
which I'm going to write as AB again.
and then plus B squared.
Okay, and then we could simplify that to be this. Is that okay? Okay, so I want to point out a couple things. I'm just pointing these out so that you kind of see where the next step is coming from. Right? Coefficient of 1. Right? Coefficient of 1 and coefficient of 1. And a to the first power, which is what our power was, b to the first power, which our power was. Right? So down here, right, we had a power of 2. So the first one was a 2. The middle one was a 1 and a 1, so 2. And then another 2 there. Okay? Coefficients 1, 2, 1. So I'm going to do one more of these. So what would it be? I don't want you to try to answer it. Well, how would you do that? Write it out 3 times. You will get an a cubed and a b cubed. But like if this was your original problem, you'd have to FOIL all that, simplify, FOIL again, simplify. But I'm going to jump ahead because we already have the a plus b squared, so then it would be this. Does that make sense? Like I just FOILed those second two? Okay, so now I'm going to multiply this. So then a cubed to the next term, 2a squared b to the third term, ab squared. And now I'm moving on to the b. So then it would be a squared b plus 2a b squared plus b cubed. And then I should be able to combine some of this. It looks like a cubed plus 3a squared b plus 3ab squared plus b cubed. Is that okay? And so then again, I'm going to point out some things. Right? We started with a cube, and we have a cubed, a 2 and a 1, which is 3, a 1 and a 2, which is 3, and then another 3. So all the exponents add up to what it starts with. Another thing I want to point out is that the a goes from 3 to 2 to 1 to gone. And then the b goes from gone to 1 to 2 to 3. Okay? And then the coefficients are like symmetric, right? It's a 1, a 3, a 3, a 1. Right, so and so then we could keep going and looking at the patterns. It keeps going like this. But again, like, if you got to FOIL this 3 times, are you going to want to do a plus b to the 6th power? Or are you going to want to FOIL all that out? And I'm guessing no, because that's like a lot of places that make mistakes. You could, and you could get the right answer. But eventually, like, that's too much going on. Okay? So then people looked at these patterns and came up with a much easier way to expand them. That's what we're doing, expanding, right? All right, so then let's come back here. And I'm looking right here in the middle here, key concepts. Now, I've already said almost all of these. So I didn't say this first one. If you have some binomial, it has to be a binomial, and it's raised to the nth power, the number of terms you're going to end up after you expand it is one more than that. Okay, so when we did that last one, a plus b to the third, we ended up with 4 terms at the end. Okay? The next thing is, I've told you this one already, the exponent of a in the first term and b in the last term is equivalent to whatever we're starting with. Okay, and then it says, basically what I said here was, the a goes from the one we did 3 to 2 to 1 to gone, and the b goes from gone to 1 to 2 to 3. That's what this is saying. And then they all add up to be n, just like they did in that example. They all added up to 3, they being the exponents. Okay, and then they're symmetric. Okay, so it's all of the stuff that I just pointed out to you. Okay, now they talk about Pascal's triangle. Have you guys seen Pascal's triangle before? Okay, so the book is going to do it in 2 different ways. I think the second way is unnecessary. Okay, because we'd have to learn about combinations and there's no need because we got Pascal's triangle. And so here's Pascal's triangle, and it talks about some things about Pascal's triangle. Essentially, we're ignoring this part. Okay, so none of it we're going to do that way. All right, so I'm going to look at Pascal's triangle, and I'm going to point out how it's constructed. Because you do need to construct it. Okay, and these are the coefficients of our terms when we expand it. So all you got to do is set it up, and then you're just reading a triangle, okay? So you always start with 1. And we're looking at these as rows. So first row is just a 1. That corresponds to the binomial to the 0 power. So you just be left with 1 no matter what. The second one, right, is to the first power. And it's just 1 and a 1 again. And think of when we did that, a plus b to the first was just a plus b. Okay? And so then it goes 1, 2, 1. Now you don't have to memorize these because you're just looking above and adding the numbers above it. So it's always going to start with a 1, but on this one I'm looking at 1 plus 1 being 2. And then there's a 1 here. Then the next row, right, you start with a 1, and then you look at 1 plus 2 is 3, 2 plus 1 is 3, and it ends on a 1. And then we start with a 1 here, 1 plus 3 is 4. 3 plus 3 is 6. 3 plus 1 is 4. And then you end on a 1. Right? Start with a 1. 1 and 4 is 5. 4 and 6 is 10. 6 and 4 is 10. 4 and 1 is 5. And then you end on a 1. Okay? So you do have to construct that, but that's all you're doing. So then what's the next line here?
From left to right?
Yeah, let's go left to right.
I don't know if this is right, but 1, 6, 15, 20, 15, 6, 1.
Is that okay with everyone?
Yeah.
All right, so then what's the final one then they got?
1, 7, 21, 35, 35, 21, 7, 1.
Okay, so then you can keep going on forever and ever and ever and ever, okay? So once you do it once, you don't have to do it for every problem. Now you're just referencing this, and this is your coefficients, okay? And so, they kind of did it over here. Mine's a little blurry, but they're lining up each line. And so then this, right, it ends on to the 5th. So then, if you're still filling it out, like this would be x plus y to the 6th. And then this last one would be x plus y to the 7th, and so on and so on and so on.
So there cannot be any negatives in this kind.
Yeah, there can, but not for this part of it. You're never going to have a negative. It's always going to be a positive here. We actually do one that you're asking about, okay? So that's the first thing. And so just to put it back to what I was saying before, right, we did this one a second ago to the third. And right, see the coefficients are 1, 3, 3, 1. And so then when we did that over here, right, 1, 3, 3, 1. Okay, so that's how it all matches up. Is that all right? Okay, and so then they did this x plus y to the 7th. And again, I'm going to just point it out one more time because this is how I would do it, okay? So I would do my coefficients last, and that's how I'm going to do it with you guys. I'm doing the coefficients last. I'm setting up the variables first. So we're starting with a 7, so then the first term to the 7th. The next term drops down 1 to the 6th, then y gets a first. Right, x to the 5th, y to the 2nd. They always add up to be 7 now. Right, 4 and 3, 3 and 4, 2 and 5, 1 and 6, and then 7. Okay? And then we're just reading the coefficients off this line. 1, 7, 21, 35, 35, 21, 7, and 1. And so again, your other option would be to do x plus 7 times x plus 7, simplify that, multiply it again by x plus 7, then multiply, simplify that, multiply it again by x plus 7, simplify that, multiply it again by x plus 7, simplify that, again by x plus 7, simplify that, and again by x plus 7, simplify that. Okay? And so that's a lot of places to miss a sign or whatever, okay? So then this is the way to do it. Is this okay? All right, so keep your finger on that page so you don't have to rewrite it, but understand that you may have to write that on the quiz, okay? So you just set it up and then you're done. You do it when you need to. All right, but let's do this check at the top. C plus D to the 4th. I'm going to do it over here. So I like to save my coefficient stuff till the end. So I'm just messing with the variables right now, or the stuff, the binomial part of it. So I'm always going to leave like a little blank. So we'll fill that part in here in a second. So what happens with the variables and the exponents on each term is all I'm doing right now. I don't want to do the coefficients yet. So just like what's going to be the variable. We'll fill in the coefficients here in a second. C to the 4th. C to the 4th. So you guys can do it a different way. I'm going to do the coefficients at the end, okay?
C plus D.
Well, yeah, so we're just going to write all these out. So then plus, we're going to leave that, and then so what's the variables going to be? That'll be at the end. C to the 3rd D, right? Does it add, does it add up to be 4? Yeah. Okay, again, we'll come back for the coefficients here in a second. What's the next variable makeup? C to the 2nd, D to the 2nd. We'll come back for the coefficient. What's the next one? And then finally, all right, so is everyone okay with those? All right, so then, make sure you're on the right line, right row of the Pascal's triangle. And so then how do the coefficients work? One, 4, 6, 4, 1. So again, we just foiled this 4 times or however you want to look at it, right? Is that okay? All right. 2016, the Cubs won the World Series for the first time in 108 years. During the regular season, the Cubs played the Braves 6 times, winning 3 and losing 3. If the Cubs were as likely to win as to lose, find the probability of this outcome by expanding W plus L to the 6th. Okay, so I'm going to explain what they're doing here in a second, but I just want to do W plus L to the 6th, and then I'll explain what they're doing. But I'm not doing, like, this is a combination right here, right? And I don't know if you guys did combinations / permutations, okay? I'm guessing no, because that's a probability thing, and usually that's what gets cut. We don't need it because we got Pascal's triangle, okay? So I'm ignoring all of this. I just want to come up with the missing parts. And all they're doing is just what we did on that previous example, and we're just going to use Pascal's triangle. So what's the variable of the first one? W to the, is that okay with everyone? And what's the coefficient on that? 1. All right, and so then, right, notice, right, they're going W to the 5th, L to the 1st, W to the 4th, L squared, W to the 3rd, L to the 3rd, etc. Okay, and so then what's the second to last one there? All right, does everybody see where all that comes from?
How do you get like the numbers when you just like
Which numbers?
the ones that you put with the variables?
The coefficients. Yeah, so the coefficients are what you're pulling off of Pascal's triangle. And so we had to go to the 6th row, or, well, I guess it's kind of the 7th row, I guess, because you start at 0, right? And so you're just pulling those off right now. You don't even have to think about it. Okay, so here's what they're saying is going on. And if you understand probability at all, this will make a little bit of sense. The exponent is representing how many wins and losses that you could have. So, right, we're talking about the Cubs playing the Braves 6 times. So there's only one way that you could win all 6 games. You just win all 6 games. That's the only way that happens. And so that'd be one way to win 6 games out of 6. Okay? And then how many different ways can you get 5 wins out of 6 games? So then what it would be is like, okay, you win the first 5 and lose the last one. That's one way. You could win the first 4, lose the 5th one, and then win one more. That's the second way. Right? You could win, I'll probably lose track here, but you could win the first 3, lose the next one, win the last 2. That's the third way. Then you keep going through this until you lose the first one and then you win the last 5. Okay, so that could be, there's 6 different ways you could do that. Okay, and so then there's 15 different ways you could win 4, lose 2. Right, you can win the first 4, lose the last 2. Lose the first 2, win the last 4. Win 3, then 1, then lose, or win 3, 1 loss, 1 win, 1 loss. Okay, you see what I'm saying? Okay, and so then there's 15 different ways. There's 20 different ways you can split, and then it goes back down. Okay, and so that's what they're saying on here. Okay, so they tell you right here, by adding the coefficients, you can determine that there was 64 different ways that this 6-game series could come out. Okay, because there's 1 way plus 6 ways plus 15 ways plus 20 ways plus 15 ways plus 6 ways plus 1 way. Okay, so that's the 64. And so then what number represents the number of combinations of 3 wins and 3 losses? 20. Okay, so now there is a blank out of blank way. So that we're talking about a probability. And probabilities always work for what you're looking for over the total. So how many different ways could you win 3 and lose 3? 20. How many total ways could you play out this 6-game series? 64. So 20 over 64. And then you divide that out. So what's 20 divided by 64?
1.
So then a 31% chance of them winning 3, losing 3. Which again would be by far the most likely outcome in this situation, right? There's 20 of them, right? It's the middle term or whatever. Is that okay? You want to do another one of these? Okay. So a group of 8 contestants are selected from the audience of a television game show. If there are an equal number of men and women in the audience, find the probability of the contestants being 5 women, 3 men by expanding W plus M to the 8th, right? The 8th is the amount of people that are pulling out of the audience, okay? All right, so then that's what we got to start with. W plus M to the 8th. Okay, now remember, on our Pascal triangle, we only go to the 7th. So we actually need another row in our Pascal triangle to do this. So let's get that taken care of before we do anything else. And I don't have mine written down. Well, I kind of do. So what's the Pascal triangle for the 8th? Because the last one ended as 1, 7, 21, 35, 35, 21, 7, 1. 1, 8, 28, 56, 70, 56, 28. All right, does everyone understand where all those numbers came from? Okay. So we just needed that because our original one didn't have it. Now, if you guys want, we can do this all at once. Okay, we can do the coefficients and the variables all at once. So what's the first term going to be then? Yeah, 1W to the 8th, right? I'm going to write the 1 because I don't want you guys to forget about it. Plus 8. Is that okay? Plus W to the 6th. M squared. Plus 56. Is this okay with everybody? I'll try to write small enough here. Plus
70.
Oh yeah, I'm definitely not writing so long. Okay, 70. Go ahead.
W to the 4th. M to the 4th.
Okay. Plus
56. W cubed and
it's a 4. I mean it does, but I got like this thing. I mean, and Brandon is sitting there saying what it is like.
you get hit one time, swap out to the dome.
No, they hit you 2 times.
Dude, the fact they pulled 2 work, bro, that's kind of. That's why my head's always on the swivel walking out where I walk.
There ain't nothing you can do.
What's the next one? Yeah, just make sure they all add up to what they need to add up to. 2 more.
Plus 8.
And then finally,
M to the 8th.
Yeah, so m to the eighth is correct. It's just like I'm writing them right now, so because we need them. Okay, so again, what this is saying is, right, how many different ways can you get 4 women and 4 men? Well, there must be 70 different ways. Okay, there's only one way to get all 8 men. There's only one way to get all 8 women. Okay, and so all these combinations are from that. So does everyone understand what we just did there? Is that okay? So then what the heck are we asked again? So then it says, find the probability of being 5 women and 3 men. 5 women, so it's 56 over, how do you get the over?
7.
You had to add up all the coefficients. Okay, so I have no idea what it is, but, right, so it's 1 plus, and that's why I wanted to write the 1 so we didn't forget about those. You don't have to have it, but 1 plus 8 plus 28 plus 56 plus 70 plus 56 plus 28 plus 8 plus 1.
A lot of candy.
So I don't know what it is. You guys got to tell me. 256. So 56 out of 256, bless you. And so then they divided that out for a percentage. What is it? 21%. 0.218, so okay, 21 or 22%. All right, is that okay? All right, so one more thing for me. If you've noticed, we was just doing like x plus y, a plus b, but that's not what's always going to happen, right? You could have coefficients and you could have signs. So everything's going to be the same. We just got more numbers that we got to deal with. So again, I'm ignoring this. We're not doing it this way. So just forget about all that. I just want to come up with the last thing, and we're doing 2c minus 6d to the 4th. Yeah, and so we're subtracting, so we got to watch out for our signs. You know, if you're expanding this 4 times, you'd end up doing at one point 2c times 2c times 2c times 2c. So we got to incorporate those 2's and the negative 6's as well. Okay, so like if we're doing it to the 4th, how does that work? It's do you want the coefficients now or you want to come back for the coefficients? What do you guys want to do? Now, okay, so I'm just pulling the coefficients off of Pascal's triangle. So the first coefficient is 1. And then what do we do with that first term?
That'd be 2c to the 4th.
So it's 2c to the 4th. You got to take it all. Yeah, so then I'm going to write it with parentheses, 2c to the 4th. Plus, right, what are we on? 4th one. So what's the coefficient? No, I think you're on the wrong one.
No, it's 4.
I think it's 4. That's off of Pascal's triangle. Now it's 2c to the
Cube.
to the 3rd.
60 to the...
Except we got to work in the negative.
negative.
Yeah, so negative 6d to the 1st. Plus, what's the coefficient? 6 times 2c to the 2nd times Is that okay with everybody? Plus 4 from Pascal's triangle. 2. Get this for Caden. Do that for you, Caden. 2c to the 1st, negative 6d to the third, and then finally 1 from Pascal's triangle. Say it again. To the fourth. Is that okay with everyone? All right, now you got to simplify because that's kind of like half of what algebra 2 is about, is simplifying. Okay, so do your order of operations correctly. That means mess with your exponents first. 2c to the fourth is what? One more, 16c to the fourth. Okay, so then again, so plus here, 2c cubed is
18.
Wait, well, hold on. What's 2 to the third power?
9 times 6 27.
It's 8. It's 8. 2 to the third power is 8. Okay, so 8 times 4 is... So then it's 32 times negative 6, right? We got to do all that. What is it? So right, so we got to 32 times negative 6. Negative 192. 192. Well, that's okay. Yeah, 192 c cubed d. All right, so you're right, we did that one, we did this one. All right, so then write 2 to the second, 4. Negative 6 to the second, so 36 times 4, I don't know, times 6. It is something.
Quite the large number. 864.
864? Plus 864, right? It's plus because that negative 6 got squared. C squared, D squared. All right, so negative 6 to the third. Is negative 216 times 4 times 2, so negative 216 times 8. So negative 1728 CD cubed. And then finally, plus 1 times negative 6 to the fourth. That one's in there, so 1296 d to the fourth. Okay, so then, I would write it out as minus here. They give you guys room to write it in. I'm not going to rewrite it after this. All right, and you may say, well, that's kind of a pain, but I would say, well, that's way better than having to FOIL that 4 times. Is that okay? All right, do you want to do one of the homework problems, or you just want me to be done?
Yeah, can we do number 4?
Well, you're doing the odds. You just want to pick one from... Yeah, it's supposed to be odd up there, sorry. 15, yeah, okay. So if you do 15, I guess they could put minus 1/4, and so you got to pay attention to your negatives. But basically, if you can do 15, you can do any of them. All right, so then let's look at 15. I mean, a negative would make it a little bit harder. Yeah, it's supposed to say odds over there. You can just do odds, check them as you go. So again, you got to make your own decision. Do you want to mess with coefficients as you do it, or you want to come back and do the coefficients at the end? And there's no wrong answer, just like how do you want to think about it? But I would only do the Pascal triangle once, and if you got to add to it, you got to add to it. So what?
Just do it all together.
All together. Okay. So then. Are you just doing it, or am I waiting? I don't know. Am I waiting for you, or what's happening right now? You're just doing it, and then I'll do it. Is that what you want to do? It doesn't matter to me, but like nobody said anything, so I didn't know if I was.
No, it's 1 to the.
All right, 1 from Pascal's triangle, right, and then 2b to the 5th plus 5 from the Pascal's triangle times
2
to the 4th times 1/4, and we'll just leave it as the first. I'm just going to make sure we count. Plus 10 from Pascal's triangle, 2b to the 3rd, 1/4 to the 2nd, plus 10 from Pascal's triangle, 2b to the 2nd, 1/4 to the 3rd, back to 5 for Pascal's triangle, to b to the 1st, thank you. One-fourth to the 4th, and then finally 1, and then times 1/4 to the 5th. All right, so then we just got to simplify all this. Oh, 8, 16. Well, you got to raise 2 to the 5th, though. $32 b to the 5th plus 'Do we get one?
80.
We got to divide by 4, I think, still. So I think it's 20 b to the 4th. Does that sound right? I think that's right. Plus, 4. Change those into fractions for me because I won't know if you give me as a decimal. We're gonna run out of time. I think it's 5/16. I think that's what it is. And that one would be 10/16. So I think, and I might be wrong here, but I think it's 5/8 b². I think. I'm only questioning for my influencees that I have out there. And then I believe that's 32, 6, 5/16, I think again. Is that right? And then 1/32. I get those right? I think those are right. I might have made a mistake. But I think that's right. Is that all right? Right. Did I miss one? All right, so, right, get these done, ask some questions. We'll go over the word problem if we have to tomorrow, and then you're just reviewing. Is that right? They have different numbers? I may have made a mistake. Yeah, I was trying to do that in my head, so, okay. So I may have made a mistake. All right, yeah, so I did mess up. So 32, the 20. I think the 4s were messing me up. I think I was looking at them as 2s. So then this one should be just a 5. Yeah, the 4s were messing me up. I was treating them as 2s, I think. That's a 5. 5/8 is right. This should be 5/128. And then this one should be 1/1024. So I was trying to do that in my head and I messed up.